Hey everyone, this is Karen from Fox in the Garden. Today we are going to tear out this compost bin, build a new one, and learn a little bit about the soil food web and what makes your compost actually work. So now you can actually see my compost after doing a little work. So I had two sections. I had this section here, which was the active section, and then another section here that was the actual compost that I used this year. So every season I would just switch it up. I would start putting food scraps on one side, letting it break down, whereas the other side would already have compost, and then switch it out. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the soil food web. So we all know that compost is important, right? Every gardener pretty much knows that. We know that compost adds nutrients to our soil and our garden beds. There's my actual tomatoes over there. So every season I would amend my beds with compost. But what is actually happening in that compost? So it's a food web, just like a food chain of any sort would be. So it starts with some basic things. So what is the first thing we put in our gardens? Food scraps, right? So it always starts, any soil is going to start with some type of photosynthesizer. So here, think about photosynthesizer here. If you've got a grapefruit, where a grapefruit tree would be the photosynthesizer here, right? It uses the sun for production, to create the fruit, etc., in its own natural cycle. One of the first things you might see as your food starts to decompose is bacteria. Well, you might not see the bacteria, but you'll definitely see the fungi that feeds on it. And here's a prime example, a strawberry that's gotten mold all over it, right? So that's the first step. You have your bacteria, your fungi, etc., that breaks down the squishy parts of the plants, okay? Put her in there. The second part, really the third part of the food web. So we start off with your photosynthesizers, then we have the bacteria and fungi, which is step 2. And then step 3 is going to be your shredders, your things that are eating the fibrous parts of the plant. So if we look down, let's see, what's fibrous in this compost? This grapefruit definitely has a fibrous shell. We have plant matter, that's fibrous. We have corn husk, also fibrous, right? So these fibrous things that we see in our compost are going to be broken down by something a little different than, say, bacteria or fungi. It's going to be broken down by things like nematodes and arthropods and things like that. So if you don't know what they are, just think of them as the bugs that eat the bacteria and that eat the fungi and eat the squishy parts. That's what comes next. And then on top of that, we also have the bugs that eat the bugs. So that would be level 4. So you have 5 stages happening in this food web. So we already talked about the photosynthesizers. We talked about the bacteria and the fungi that eat the plant material, eat the squishy parts. Then we have the bugs that shred and break apart the fibrous things. And we have the bugs that eat the bacteria and the fungi, right? And then we have the bugs that eat the bugs. Think of spiders, think of, I don't know, other bugs that eat bugs. I don't exactly know, but that is what's happening. And guess what? When they're all intermingling together in here, guess what? They all poop, every single one of them. And as they poop, they add nutrients to your compost. So the end product is basically fiber shreds and poop. And that is what feeds your garden. When we get our compost out of the other side, so I can actually grab some of my compost. It has been well used. It's at the final scraps of it, but let's see what's down there. So this is the compost that my garden has created. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I currently see there's a little worm scrolling around. So, things you might be able to see here. There is a worm crawling around on the top. There are pieces of leaves still in there. There's a little sand, there's a little dirt, but mostly it'd probably be a bunch of worm and bug poop. Isn't that amazing? And that's what feeds your garden. So when we put this in there, we're not just putting in there sterilized nutrients. We're actually putting in there the leftover bugs. There's still some worms, there's still some ants, there's some things crawling around in here. So you're still getting some of that stuff and putting those bugs in that food web and putting it into your garden. So that's really important to think about, because what if you used a pesticide? What do you think that's going to do to it, huh? It's going to kill the bugs that are creating the food web and supporting the very soil that's happening in your garden. So if you spray pesticides to get off, the things that are bugging your garden, literally, then you're creating a problem for your soil health. And think about that too when you go to buy products at the store. If you're buying pesticide used products, you're supporting the deconstruction of our soil essentially in our country. Just a thought. It's a big thought, but I mean, I still do it. I still buy produce that's not organic, and it's a trade-off too, because a lot of times our organic products in our store are covered in plastic. So you either buy organic stuff covered in plastic, and why do they do that? I don't know. Or you buy stuff that's been chemically treated and you're killing your soil. I don't know. There's really not the best trade-off right here. The better trade-off is growing your own shit. So I am going to pull this out now and maybe clean up the area, and then I'm gonna build a new compost bin so that I can do this a little better. And I mean, every compost bin is gonna have a life cycle. This one was made out of pallets and it was really awesome. And me and my partner at the time built this, and it served us well for a long time. And now I need a new one. So I think today I just have limited resources. I'm gonna use some chicken wire. I've never done that before. I'm a little concerned that the chicken wire is gonna have too big of holes, but I've seen it done. If we need to, or if I need to, I can just add some type of layering. I mean, I could even put cardboard as a liner. You just do whatever works for you. You don't need a fancy compost bin. In fact, you don't even need a way to house it. This one of the issues with it wasn't the end of the world, but the fact that it didn't have a front on it, and the soil would just kind of fall out, especially with the chickens. I had chickens in here and they would totally just be up in there digging it all out. So something I'm going to do this time is just make sure it's got 4 walls. Not that I'm going to have chickens back in here. I'm not really sure yet, but I don't know. We're going to try it that way. So it might be a little harder to access, but see what I can do. It's even starting to compost the wood, which is kind of funny. All the decomposers, you can see them. Look, the decomposers are even starting to decompose the pallet that was in it. Isn't that nature at its finest? And there you have it. It's all complete. Chicken wire, 4 posts, some zip ties. Pretty freaking easy. Pretty affordable, pretty cheap. I hate using plastic for the zip ties, but man, zip ties are important in a garden. All right, so on to better soil health for me. I don't like that I don't have 2 sections, but really all you have to do is dig up a corner to get down to the dirt. So I plan on doing that. But you know, not everything's gonna be fancy schmancy when it comes to the garden. It's important to use what you had. I already had these posts. I did not have the chicken wire, but the chicken wire was like 30 bucks. at Ace, and I even had a little discount card. So, you know, in the end, all is well, and I'll have great dirt. And now you know a little bit about the soil food web and the importance and value of compost and how it works in your soil. Thanks for watching Fox in the Garden once again. If you like this channel so far, please subscribe. It really helps me grow. Like this video, it helps get me noticed and grow this channel. So thank you so much for joining. Take care and enjoy your lovely Friday.